What's going on? If you clicked on this video, it's because you are likely suffering with pain on the outside of your knee, and you'd ideally like it feeling better sooner rather than later. So let's go ahead and get right into it. My name is Dan Janader. I am a doctor of physical therapy here in Midtown Manhattan, and in my work and in my daily life, I have come across a lot of cases of knee pain. And the case of knee pain that we are going to talk about today is pain that exists on the outside of your knee. More specifically, the kind of knee pain we're going to talk about today will be right around here and is due to the effect of a tight IT band. But before we get talking about the IT band and all the things that you can do to help that IT band and reduce the pain on the outside of your knee, I'm going to go ahead and go through a quick rule out process to make sure that the source of your knee pain isn't due to something like a tear in your meniscus. If you have a pain on the outside of your knee that comes with a pretty frequent painful click when you go past a certain range of motion, and you also notice that pain increases every time you fully bend your knee or fully straighten your knee, and most importantly, if you were to stand on one leg and twist back and forth, you feel like that pain would significantly increase and maybe even buckle your knee and fall to the floor, well then your pain may be due to a small tear in your lateral meniscus. In an earlier video, which will hopefully be right about here, if I can figure out how to use YouTube and my editor can make it look nice and pretty, I have already gone over what to do in the case that you may be dealing with a small meniscus tear. We are not going to go over that in this video. So if you said yes to all three of those things, just go ahead and click this video right here. If there's nothing here, I promise it will be linked somewhere down below, but I'm really hoping we can figure it out and get it right here. Even though in that video I'm talking about a tear in your medial meniscus, which is the meniscus on the inside of your knee, all the things you do are exactly the same. In that video, I also show some really great general exercises that you can do for knee pain that is still worth checking out even if you don't have a meniscus tear. But now that we have all of that out of the way, we're going to talk about pain on the outside of the knee because of the IT band, and I'm going to give you a lot of really specific things you can do for that particular pain. If the pain on the outside of your knee is because of your IT band, you will still feel a click oftentimes when you pass a certain spot when you flex and bend your knee, but that click oftentimes will not be super painful. It will just feel a little uncomfortable and definitely pretty annoying. Also, for the most part, the discomfort that you feel will be along the outside of your knee. It will be kind of broad, but you may have an increase in pain if you were to press over this spot right over here on the kind of like the bottom of your knee. This spot right here is where that IT band attaches, and when you flex and bend your knee, if there's a lot of tension in that IT band, then it can kind of move and click in a way where it wouldn't if everything was nice and smooth and moving clear. Also, if this is the cause of your knee pain, it's also not uncommon to have tenderness and soreness along the outside of your thigh, right where that IT band is, and especially have tightness and discomfort right here in this muscle, your tensor fascia lata. It basically creates one big unhappy chain that all culminates at that one spot in your knee where you feel that clicking and discomfort. So if we want to start addressing that discomfort, we have to go all the way back up to the aforementioned top of the chain, the muscle that connects to your IT band, the tensor fascia lata. The first thing that you can do is to take something like a stick roller or a massage gun and address that tensor fascia lata right about here. If you've gotten to the point where the IT band is causing pain in your knee, then this muscle probably will feel very sore and very tender. So using something like a stick roller or a massage gun where you can sit down in a chair and only use your arms as the pressure tends to work out a lot better rather than using a foam roller. And that's because when you're using a foam roller, you now have the full weight of your body going into that muscle. And like I said, that muscle is already pretty tender, pretty sore, and pretty angry. So something like this could do more harm than good. It's important to know that whenever you're working on a muscle in this manner, that muscle can stay completely relaxed. If you're in so much pain that you're tensing up and trying to fight it, you're not really doing yourself any good. More to that point, if you've ever tried to roll out your IT band, you may have noticed that it really hurts. Just cramped up a little bit. Ugh. Not only is this extremely unpleasant, but because the IT band itself is not a muscle, it will not respond as well as a muscle to something like foam rolling. So instead of putting yourself through that torture, just focus on the muscle, your tensor fascia lata. It's certainly more comfortable, and I promise you in the long run it'll do you way more good. After working on your tensor fascia lata, you should start to feel a slight decrease in symptoms, and then the next thing we have to do is address your hip internal rotation. At least in my experience, the number one thing that can piss off a tensor fascia lata and then your IT band is a lack of hip internal rotation. If you don't know what I mean by hip internal rotation, if you were to sit in a chair and bring your foot out like this, it would be how far you can bring your foot out to the side. And if you're having issues with your tensor fascia lata and your IT band, oftentimes the amount that you can bring your foot out on one side, on the side that's painful, is way less than the side that isn't. And if that's the case, then that lack of internal rotation is definitely playing into your symptoms. So here are 2 easy things you can do to start to address that. The first one is to sit in a chair and get either a small ball or some couch cushions, or you could even take a sweatshirt and roll it up into like a nice little clump. You basically just need something that you can squeeze onto and gives you a little bit of feedback. Whatever it is that you find, you're going to put it between your knees, and then keeping your feet off the ground, you're just going to gently squeeze into that thing as you bring your feet away from each other, just like this. As I mentioned before, as you first start to do this, you may notice that one side is much tighter than the other, but the more you do this, the more it will start to loosen up and the more that internal rotation will start to return. The other exercise you can do is arguably much easier and involves you just laying down on the ground with your knees bent and your feet spread apart. In this position, all you're going to do is try to keep your lower back pressed flat against the ground as you bring the inside of your knee down to the ground about as far as you can. Once you feel like you've gotten to that spot, you're going to hold for either 1 or 2 seconds, bring it back up, and you're going to repeat with the other side. Once again, when you first start doing this, you'll probably notice that the side where you're experiencing the symptoms is a little bit tighter, but once again, after you do maybe 10 or 15 repetitions of this exercise, you should feel it start to loosen up and ideally become much more closer to what you're getting on the other side. Now that we've taken away a lot of the symptoms in the tensor fascia lata and we have increased mobility into that internal rotation, the last thing we have to do is build strength, but most importantly, build strength inside of that internal rotation so that we can be sure that we're addressing that tensor fascia lata specifically. For these 2 exercises, you're going to be back on the ground. Laying on your back, keep one leg straight out in front and keep your knee locked completely straight as you keep your toe turned in as far as you can keep it. Keeping that knee straight and keeping your toe turned in, you're just going to bring that leg straight off the ground and bring it back down. Once again, if you're already having trouble with your tensor fascia lata and your IT band, when you first do this exercise, you will be shocked at how hard it is for you. But the more you continue to do this exercise, the easier it will start to get. And then by the time it gets easier, you'll notice that you're having a lot less pain on the outside of your knee and a lot less pain in that IT band. The goal with that exercise is that you do about 2 or 3 sets of 10 once a day, and then you're also going to add in this second exercise. It's basically the same thing where one leg is going to be bent, the other leg is going to be straight and completely turned in, and this time you're just bringing it straight up to the ceiling but laying on your side. Once again, you're also going to do this one for 2 or 3 sets of 10, and the goal is to be able to do this about once a day. All in all, if you do everything that I've shown you today as a full routine, it should only take you about 10 to 15 minutes. And I would say that that's a pretty small investment, especially if your pain has gotten to the point where you're going on YouTube and trying to find videos about it. Once you get really good at these movements, then once again, it's a good idea to check out this other video, which once again, I really hope I can figure out how to link right here. Because as I mentioned before, I include a lot of great, really more general exercises for knee pain. But that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, please comment, please engage and like and do anything you can to just show YouTube that you enjoy this content. And if you have any other ideas for videos that you'd like to see from me, please leave that in the comments as well.